Edition of DCTV. I'm Doug Kazarian alongside Analytics Capper, like we are every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And for the next hour, we'll be dissecting games for the upcoming weekend in the NFL. And also, we have a little treat, a game in the NBA right now in Paris. We'll tipping off in about a few minutes. So we'll break that down. Good to be with you, bud.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. I mean, we do this every week, and I know the last 2 weeks I've been talking about. It's been an up and down time. It's been up and down. Well, Doug, 6 straight winning days. Thank goodness. 9 out of the last 10. We are white hot, so I can't complain right now. Everything's going well, including the NBA, which I like the Spurs in this one. Should we just go ahead and dive right into it? It starts in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on the game. I think these are tough situations. I think the narrative applies, right? The whole Wemby back where he grew up and where he used to play in this gym 2 years ago. I would imagine there's going to be a little bounce in his step. I want to see how it plays out. I know some sharp guys on the first quarter and first half under, just sort of similar to the narrative we see with March Madness, foreign gym, earlier tip time, biological clock, or body clock, I should say, not biological, body clock off a little bit. So there are some elements in that regard that I can see. I can certainly get behind.
Yeah, I mean, and for those who are not following, the game is in Paris. It's prime time there, but obviously it's just 2 o'clock Eastern here. They've been in Paris for a couple days now. I don't think they've been playing basketball. We've seen them at fashion shows. We've seen them at soccer matches. We've seen them out on the out on the town in Paris. So it's like basketball might be secondary when it comes to this trip. And I would say the thing that could be detrimental when they're not super focused is defense. So it's hard for me to look at the under there, but it does make sense just because of the travel and the new scenery and all that. So the look I like is the Spurs +3. I do think there's a lot of value there because Pacers have been on fire, really hot. I think they've won 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, and then having to travel kind of ruins their momentum overseas. And then the other look I wanted to mention is, and Doug is more of a player props guy, but I've hit 3 straight, so now I feel pretty good about myself, Doug. I like Miles Turner over 1.5 threes, and that's because of just the nature of how Wemby plays defense. He's more of a floater on defense. He's not going to stick to his man, especially on the pick and pops. And I think Turner, who just made 8 threes 2 games ago, he's going to have ample opportunities to shoot 5, 6, 7, or 8 threes, and he's easily going to make 2 of those. So I like the over 1.5 triples for Turner as well.
It's funny. I was doing an NBA podcast earlier, and I got your text with those plays, and I was like, "What's the rationale?" It's just the pick. I was like, "I think I have an angle," and I went and scoured. I was like, "It's a pretty good angle." I do. I think he plays off the ball. I think the Spurs are perfectly fine letting one guy, a center, beat them straight on, and take other guys out, right? If they just want to feed the big center, in this case, it's Turner shooting threes. But the net positive is having Wemby in the paint, all that stuff, not being like up in the grill of Miles Turner in this case, and opposing centers who can shoot have done really well, right? So Brook Lopez had 5 made threes recently. Jokic had 3. Memphis went off in back-to-back games. Now Gobert did, but Gobert never shoots 3. So that's why it's a probably favorable matchup in that regard. So I think it's a really, really sharp angle. So good job on your part to uncover that one.
Cool. Do you want to get into the rest of the slate? We have Portland, Orlando. We have, man, I don't know what Miami is doing right now, Doug. Miami traveling
I
to
don't think anyone
Milwaukee,
does.
Toronto,
So
Atlanta. Yeah, go ahead.
I there's a few angles. So I think Orlando having lost 4 straight,
Hmm.
that's first thing is I'm looking there. I think Portland is a tricky team. They can lay some eggs if they have to, and I think they're going to lay an egg here. I'm on the Magic in this case. I just think it's a really good spot. I think they're going to lock down on D. There was a lot of moving parts with them with just Bancaro coming back to the lineup after they had gotten used to playing without him for so long. Suggs was out. I think this is an Orlando beatdown, just really spearheaded by defense. Now, there's certainly a scenario where Portland plays well offensively if Simons does play and he goes off. I mean, there's those things can happen. But I like the Orlando side here.
Yeah, I mean that's really telling because the last couple of shows we've done, Doug has mentioned how high he is on the Portland Trailblazers from a value standpoint, from an ATS perspective. So the fact that you like Orlando is pretty good. For those jumping on, first time, we do this every week at 2 o'clock Eastern time. If you want to check out our free trials with DubClub, definitely check in the comments. You'll see Doug's as well as mine. We'll talk through NBA, we'll talk through NFL, and then anything else you guys want to talk about. Please leave questions. Last week was awesome. I think we had 8 or 9 questions that we engaged with. That was cool live on the podcast. You talk about a team laying an egg, potentially laying an egg today in the Blazers. I think the other team are the Mavericks. I have a pretty
Right.
good pulse on Dallas. I live here, a season ticket holder. I was in the building on Friday when the Mavericks somehow beat the Thunder without Luca and Gafford and Lively and all those guys. Shea was sitting. Shea's most likely going to play tonight. But these two teams don't like each other. There were like 3 or 4 tussles during that game, including a Kyrie Caruso tussle. And I think Dallas, both teams are coming off a second night of a back to back. So there's not much of a rest disadvantage, if you will. Dallas does have to go on the road tonight. But I think OKC is going to take last week's loss more personally. I think they're going to come out and win the first half, which is -6. I like that spot a lot. And then obviously for the game, -12.5, -13.
Um, I'm just checking something. Yeah, first half is 6. Sorry, 8, not 6.
Oh, 8. Wow, it moved. I was on it last night at 6.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm right there with you. I think it's an absolute beatdown. I call that the wheel. So first quarter, first half, and game line. I think it's a beatdown. I don't think SGA is going to sit this one out. I don't think I think they want revenge. I think it's a good spot. I think Dallas, went all in on last night's game to the wire. They're already thin with Lively out and Luca out. It's really, I echo everything you said. I think it's a really one-sided game here. Um, Now I am a little gun shy. I'd put more units on the game line, but I think I think the right way to play it is quarter, half, and game.
Yeah, I
Really
think that's
different
two. I
different
think
numbers.
that's 2 and 1 minimum, right? So you're gonna get some
Right.
units out of it. So I agree with you there. I call it the trifecta, but the wheel is interesting as well. The other look, this one's kind of interesting. I kind of like the Lakers tonight, Doug. The Lakers are hosting Boston tonight. They are 5-point underdogs at Crypto.com. Lakers are an impossible team to get a good read on from a night to night basis, but I do think they get up for games, and that's not just because LeBron and AD. I think the rest of the team also gets up for games on national TV as well. I like the Lakers at +5. There's some value there, and with the NBA at this juncture in the regular season, when it's these short spreads, 2, 3, 4, 5 within 2 possessions, I'm most likely going to be on a money line as well. So, like, if I think the Lakers cover the 5, I also most likely think they win the game outright.
So I've gone back and forth on this game because the number is so inviting, right? Like it is a really low number for the Celtics, all things considered. And I'm assuming Holiday and Porzingis are back and they missed last night's game. I watched the entire Clipper game last night. I was on the Celtics, knowing that there was a chance that the Clippers play harder and let down for Boston. I think the Celtics should be like not proud, but be fine with how they played. I thought the Clippers played out of their mind. So Clippers shot really well, over 50% from the three. Um, Great 3-point shooting until the fourth quarter. And there's only so much you can do on defense when teams play like that. And like they guarded like their lives depended on it, like it
Oh
was a
yeah,
game seven. So they were up in the grill of the Celtics, and the Celtics still shot over 30% from three, played pretty well. They had turnovers, and there was some sloppiness, but they were also down three starters, two starter. I mean, it's Holiday, Porzingis, and Horford were out. Xavier Tillman was out. Um, so I know it was a shell of a Clipper unit, 7 of their top 9 guys out, but Derek Jones had 17 points in the first quarter. I think he hit all his threes. I mean, what are you going to do, right? Um, so I think the Celtics played fine. Again, down so many guys. Pritchard was 1 of 7 or so from three. So I don't think it's that bad of a sign. I don't think the Celtics are hitting the wall or anything like that. I expect Jalen Brown to play, even though he has an ankle issue. He said he's probable. Tatum should play, but the Lakers are fresh. We get it. Barely played any, barely went through the motions against the Wizards the other night. I do think they can control the pace and things like that. Also, the Celtics did not get a favorable whistle at all.
Mm,
Um, so I lean Boston here,
okay.
but I certainly understand where you're coming from with the Lakers.
Yeah, while you were watching Clippers Boston, I was watching Kings Warriors. And you know how I
Okay.
feel about the Warriors. They are a fade team. Even after their really hot start, I feel like they were going to regress just because they have zero athleticism. And that's my way to dovetail into tonight's game. They're hosting the Chicago Bulls. Bulls are also a team that's really hard to get a read on, but we know the pace is going to be high. We know they're going to shoot a ton of threes. I like the Bulls tonight. I think the Warriors continue to struggle. They were up. I think they were up with 4 or 5 minutes left in that fourth quarter, and then their defense just no showed for literally 4 minute stretch. The most important 4 minute stretch in a game. It no showed, and Sacramento went on and scored 123 points. This defense is horrible. 120. They gave up to 123 to Sac, 125 to Boston. I think Chicago is going to be able to run on them, and they don't have the brilliance. And Steph Curry is still good, and his gravity is still as strong as ever. But he doesn't have the horses with him to to like sustain an offensive. They don't have the firepower to deal with teams like these that shoot a ton of threes. So I like Chicago tonight on the road in San Francisco.
So do you like Chicago or the over or team total? Like what are you looking at?
It's hard because I don't do totals often, as you know, Doug. But if I were to guess, I would probably do the Chicago team total over. But all of it's correlated, right? So for
Right.
for someone like me who is mostly a sides better when it comes to basketball, we're talking about spreads. I'm just gonna do the thing that's I'm most comfortable with and have the most historical data on, right? And so right now, my sixth sense and all my signals right now looks like it's a Chicago play for me.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I think the Chicago team's pretty shaky. The Warriors are thin, right? So they're down Podzemski. Looney looks like he didn't play second half last night. He's probably out. I thought the Kings played great in the fourth quarter. They hit a lot of shots, man.
They do.
Shots that I don't expect them to hit on a normal basis. Warriors then punched back, took a lead, and then the Kings came back. Steph is really obviously he's thin with his supporting cast, as you alluded to. It's a fishy line, and
Yeah.
the line reeks of you know the Boston side, but I just can't pull the trigger. I could see myself going over. I really
Mm.
could. I'm just getting my Harris game up
Yeah, it just
on
started,
my
just tipped
iPad.
off.
Yeah. Oh, Miles Turner ball faked Wemby and then got swatted from behind.
Yeah, if we're looking at just recent trends here, Chicago is. Oh, yeah, you're right. So they had lost 5 straight games before beating Clippers on the 20th, so on Monday. So they have the severe rest advantage tonight against Golden State, who's coming off a second night of a back to back on the road. It was a really high paced game last night at Sacramento. I think we're gonna get to a point where Golden State, unless they make a move, and they're like 3 moves away from being a serious contender, in my opinion. They're a team that's gonna be up and down. Like we hear about the zigzag method all the time, when it comes
Sure.
to other sports. But it you can find some of those angles and some of those trends in basketball ATS as well. Last night they lost by 6. The spread was 7. They actually covered. I think it's gonna swing back the other way. So I like, yeah, I still like Chicago pretty strong in this one on the spread.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Bulls are competent to a certain extent recently. Um, so I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled it off or anything like that. So, you said something like, "Who knows about Miami?" I agree. Are you completely staying away from that game?
Oh yeah, it's Miami is a team where They talk about heat culture for the last 10 years, and honestly, it's been such a myth. Um, they also talk about how being located in South Beach allows them to attract all these free agents. That's also been a myth, right, in the last decade or so. So, from a franchise vision direction standpoint, I'm just not sure where they're going. And then they're facing a team in Milwaukee who have really turned a corner. I mean, they've won, I think, eight out of the last nine games. They've covered four or five of those. Really big numbers, too. Minus 13 against Philly, they covered. Minus 11 against the Raptors, they blew them out. Minus 7 against Orlando, they blew them out. The Bucks are a team where I think they found their identity, but because they're so hot, you know how I am in terms of contrarian betting and looking the other side. I couldn't bet this game. It would if I had to, it'd be Miami, but I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, I can't get involved. I
Yeah.
just can't. I can make a case for both teams, so there's your answer to stay away. What do you make of what was I going to say? Oh, we mentioned the Kings. Now they're catching 8.5 in Denver, which has been on kind of a roll of late. I think Denver rolls them. I think Sacramento's ripe to get run out of the gym, and Denver just to name it score offensively. So I was thinking about a team total, something like that, maybe even a first half team total. What about you?
Yeah, it's a weird slate because half the teams are on a second night of a back to back, and
Right.
they're playing teams that are have been resting. So it's a really weird in terms of like rest advantage and looking at schedules. So I agree with you. We identified Portland as a potential flat spot, Dallas as a potential flat spot, and also tonight potentially with the Kings. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose by 30. I would like Denver on the first quarter a lot more than any of the if we're talking about the wheel betting, just because I know Jokic is going to play 11 and a half out of those 12 initial minutes. And you guys know when Jokic is on the floor, Denver has arguably the best offense of all time. So I rather play first quarter Denver, and if it's somewhat tight, if Kings are within the number or inside the number at halftime, that's another Denver spot for me, just because of the rest advantage they have at home in elevation as well.
Yeah, I I I don't know if Sacramento's ready to kind of like step up in this scheduling disadvantage spot, right?
Yeah.
Like I think they kind of fold like a cheap suit here. That's my read. I'm mad I didn't grab Denver at eight. I mean, it's just a big number, right? Like, and there is firepower for Sacto. The question is who's going to sit tonight, things like that.
And they've been rolling with Doug Christie as coach, so
Yeah,
it's a
but they've
great spot
also,
to sell high.
they've had huge comebacks. So I've actually scoured a little bit. I can't find a prop where it's largest lead of the game. I've seen largest exact lead of the game where it's the
Mm.
exact of every margin, and then in this case 26 or more. But I'd love an over under of like 16 and a half, 17 and a half, 18 and a half, or something like that, where I could bet over because I do think it gets to a high number at some point.
Oh, I do have a question to ask you. I know if when we started the NBA season, you were on the Cavs to have the longest winning streak. What's the status on that? I haven't been
We're
following.
both Cavs and OKC 15 apiece.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they snapped OKC's 15 game streak in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
And then that was their 11th, and then I think they lost the next game or something to Toronto.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
total flat spot or whatever. But so it's a dead heat winner for now. For now.
Okay. Okay, for now.
Yeah, that was big. It was a double whammy because they were playing each other.
That's so funny. All right.
Yeah.
NBA, any other looks, any player props?
So I wrote a
I need
column.
another D'Angelo Russell assist. That was so money.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. I got one that's a sweat, but it's a good sweat. So I wrote a column that's today in the New York Post um, about the Orlando Magic. So just talking to odds makers, they they don't really admit it, but they really don't have manpower to just think about all the props. Just think about the volume of props there are. Think about how many guys in the NBA move in and out, the
Hmm.
menu options, the domino effect of every player movement. Oh, this guy's out. What does that mean? There's just tons of opportunities to catch them sort of asleep at the wheel, especially with limits so low. They just take a sharp bet and then they move in. It's whatever. They'd rather do that than like pay three guys, kind of find the right number based on 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever.
Hmm.
So Orlando um, leads the NBA in 3 pointers, uh, like on the defense attempted. So how many they allow? Fewest in the NBA. So if a team is shooting, fewer games against them than they normally do, they're facing the fourth ranked defensive efficiency. They're just going to be fewer makes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of player props. Like I don't know if you remember 2 weeks ago or something. I had Julius Randle under 1.5 made threes,
Yeah.
and that was they got there. He had one early and then didn't have another. So I explained this in my column for the Post, but it's Denny Avdia of the Portland Trailblazers today, under 1.5 made threes. It's going to be
Like it.
stressful. He's made exactly one in four straight games, but it's also one of four, one of five, one of three. So he's getting his looks. But if you believe in the Portland defense and everything, that's the way to go.
Just a quick update on this game here. They're going into timeout. First timeout in the first quarter. 15-12. The Spurs are up. Wemby just went up personal 5-0 run. Miles
Yeah,
Turner
he's
0
got a
for
he's
1
got a
from 3.
bounce in his step. I think mom's cooking or something.
Oh yeah, he was at the Louis Vuitton fashion shows last night, so I'm sure he had a good time. Yeah.
We talked about the new gym, things like that. It's 56.5 as the first quarter under. Spurs are, up 15-12 with 6:04 to go. So it's 27. I mean, I would lean under. Um, I don't know. Does Wemby usually play the whole first quarter? Like, what's the substitution pattern on that?
Honestly, that's a good question. Um, I would assume not, right? I would assume he'll go to the bench at the next dead ball. I don't know,
I'll
but
tell
but
you what, it's a bad beat if you had Pacers first to 15.
yeah, 7-0 run. Yeah.
12-8, and then Wemby takes matters in his own hands. So he's bombing threes. So what? Okay, well, we got to get something. He's one of two. So what's his threes? So it's probably 3.5 right now. Oh, they don't have a.
It's not up now, but he's been attempting 8 to
Oh, they
12
have it. He's three and
threes.
a half right now.
Oh
Three and a
yeah.
half.
That's over. Go over.
It's only minus 148.
Yeah. He
I
might
think
have
he'll
that
hit
by
four. It's
halftime.
a familiar gym for him.
Yeah. And he's going to be shooting a ton. This NBA in Paris is really Wimby in Paris. That's what this is
Wemby,
right now. Yeah.
Wemby homecoming.
Yeah.
Um, he was a trailer three, and this was like 6 feet behind the line. I mean, what are you doing? Like the league is in such trouble if this guy bombs like this.
Yeah, he made a 32-foot three-pointer. Um, according to Yahoo Sports, 32-foot three-pointer from near midcourt, assisted by Chris Paul. That's the easiest assist of his lifetime. All right, should we hop over to the
Wow.
NFL? We have two big
All right, I'm
games.
gonna keep an eye on this thing
Yeah,
because at
do
the end
your
of the
thing.
quarter, I might have to get involved.
All right, so we have Washington traveling to Philly. We have, the cardiac Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn and team. They're +6 against the Eagles. Saquon went nuts again last week. What's your read on this game? I have a pretty strong read. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So I think Washington can win. So that's why I don't want to lay the six.
Mm,
Am I betting the +6? No, but I feel dumb for not betting it because if I feel like I wouldn't lay it, I do see the problems with Washington. I mean, their defense, but I mean they got freaking Magic Johnson, right? And he is such a game changer. He makes it look easy. There's so much to like about his game. Um, so I just don't want to lay 6 points against him. And I don't know if Jalen Hurts is healthy, right? And even if he is, he could get
Even if
banged
he
up in
is,
this
yeah,
game.
even if he is, exactly.
Like he could get hurt very easily with one sack. So I'm just not in a rush to bet on the Eagles at all.
My favorite look in this game is it's actually a player prop, Doug. Look at that. You're just rubbing off on me.
Okay, now
I like Zach Ertz. I think he's going to get a ton of targets in this game. He is an ex-Eagle. I know it's been a few years already, but he's going back to Philly to play in the biggest, playoff game for Washington in like 20 plus years. I think he's going to get at least 3 or 4 red zone targets, and then obviously on third down, in the middle of the field as well. So maybe over receptions or maybe an anytime touchdown, because when it's third and goal and it's a passing situation, Jaden Daniels actually only looks at Zach Ertz for that little, you
fake
know what I
safety
mean, that
route.
little yeah, his really quick seam, um, in route that he does. But I like Zach Ertz for the game. I lean Philly, but I think it's tough because you have a Washington team that truly believes they can win, and they have
I
a
think
they
they
have a
can.
quarterback. Yeah, they have a quarterback that exudes so much confidence that I think it spreads to the rest of the team. And so right now, no lean on me for either side.
Would you tease Washington up? Not that it's the best value and things like that, but if you need to find a leg for a teaser.
I wouldn't, Doug, because I think if Philly wins, I think they win. They win because Jaden Daniels played bad, and if he plays poorly, I think it's a 2-3 touchdown game.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about so this
because I think
prop
if
someone brought?
because I think if it's a close game, Doug, then that's when I think Philly tightens up, and that's when Jaden Daniels goes to work. So I would say the correlation would be, yeah, Washington money line if it's close, right? If you're live betting this game and it's within one possession in the fourth quarter, like I believe in Washington right now more than I believe in Jalen Hurts. Just like I believe in Stafford last week more than Hurts, and Stafford somehow covered at the end and also had a chance to win at the end. They were driving before they lost the game, right? So without Saquon Barkley and his crazy 75-yard runs, like Jalen Hurts have been struggling. He's been struggling really, really bad. And so whether that's injury related, whether that's scheming, weather related, whatever the case is, I just don't think he is 100% Jalen Hurts that we saw in the Super Bowl against Kansas City a couple years back.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. Um, I look, I don't. I think there are scenarios where it's not a blowout, but it's not a. I do think there are scenarios where. Would you tease Philly down?
I would feel more confident in that
Yeah, I mean
than
it's better value
teasing
of your
Washington.
teaser.
Yeah, yeah.
I just, I just like I avoided the teaser last week on the Lions, so I teased Ohio State with Kansas City instead. Um, I just don't because I really like the Chiefs, and we'll get into it. I really like the Bills as a teaser, but
Mm.
um, I don't know. I'm just playing because there's only a couple games I wanted to ask your opinion. I I don't really have any like huge reads on this, so let me ask you this because this is I think a fun topic. Saquon, 129.5 rushing yards, largest ever.
Crazy, man. It's
What do you
so
do?
high. You have to play the over. You just have to until a
I mean,
defense shows that they can stop him. And
right. He's
Washington
got the home run ability. Now they did a good job in the last game of breaking down single high safety things like that.
Why
I just
why
think
did the Rams play their safety so far back? Man, I just didn't understand. Oh well.
I just think with the Saquon sort of read, the RPO or whatever, um, I just think that puts such pressure that freezes defenders, and then Saquon, that's all I need. So I just think there's better things to do than bet under against Saquon, but I'm not betting the over.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I haven't touched any Saquon related bets this postseason. He's a guy where he can have 20 quick carries for 45 yards and then break it for 75 on the very next play. So, yeah.
What about this? This is kind of a funny angle, and I'm not totally writing it off. AJ Brown, they asked him what was it like playing in the cold weather, and he's like, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. He was miserable. He only had like one or two catches. Um, I mean, there's something to be said. If somebody doesn't like playing in the cold, we know Goff sucks in the cold. If AJ Brown doesn't like it, is under 4.5 receptions a good bet? And I'll just, in case you didn't know, like he's had good games against Washington both meetings this year.
I would definitely lean the under, and that not only because of the comments he made about cold weather, it's just I don't believe Jalen Hurts can throw the ball right now.
Right.
Um, I think he had one really good reception from Jalen Hurts. I think on that fourth down, right? It was late in the fourth quarter. And they went for
Yeah.
it on fourth, and it was to AJ.
Yes.
But any other situation, like I don't think they're gonna put Jalen Hurts in like a 9-step drop and have AJ Brown run like a double move, right? I just don't see that happening in these games. But however, Washington's
So do you
defense
think the
is,
yards is smarter than the receptions?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the highest yards thing, but I think I think you're right. Um,
It is a bad defense though, so it's a little
right.
scary. That would be sweaty.
But he hates the cold. So
That's fun.
61.5 is the number. I would play that. What about the one like
Is there like a McLaurin versus AJ Brown receptions or yards? That's where I would lean Scary Terry 10 out of 10 times.
the head to head?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. I was going to ask you about the Brian Robinson anytime touchdown plus 185 feels high.
Hmm. What's Jaden's
He's their
anytime?
guy.
What's
What's
Jaden's
that?
anytime is what is Daniel's anytime if Brian Robinson's plus 185?
I'm doing a bunch of work here. I'm looking for the other one. All right. So I can't find the head to head.
Okay.
I'm also trying to watch an NBA game while we're at it.
I'm watching a college game. That's how sad I am.
So much going on. I know people have the under 56.5, but it's 54. Wemby for 3. Dude, I think he has 3 right now. Hold on. Just 2. Damn, he's gonna do it at the end of this quarter.
TD scores.
Um,
I have Jaden Daniels at plus 205. Brian
right,
Robinson at plus 185. Oh, yeah. Brian Robinson has way better value.
right. And I
Yeah.
think defenses are going to be, keen to stop him or whatever, or at least going to be
Eckler is
focused on him.
back, though. How do you feel with Eckler back in the fold? Like, is he going to get some red zone carries?
A little bit. He's more of a receiving threat.
Yeah.
All right, we got a quarter break here. What do we have with Wemby? So Wemby threes is now 4.5 minus 15. So it was 3.5 minus 48. He has 2 now. So I think he's going to hit 3 more. What do you think?
Oh, easily.
Easily?
He's going to shoot 15 threes.
Hold on. Let me see what his recent.
He's going to shoot 15 of them.
I mean, he hasn't made more than 4.5 in like 15 games.
He has 5 attempts through 1 quarter. I think he's going to shoot 15 of them.
That means he has to make 3 of the next 10.
Yeah. Wow, Obi Toppin is 3 for 4 from 3. Okay.
So that's another narrative. Toppin just got engaged on this trip.
Oh wow, I didn't know that narrative. Dang it.
So you can
We
make a
missed
case
out.
that maybe he be
Oh
bad.
my gosh, he got engaged in Paris? Yeah, we missed out. That would have been an over points easily. Dang.
I'm not ready to pull the trigger on Wemby. I mean, I wouldn't bet under, but Carlisle might make an adjustment.
On defense, no way, man. No way. Carlisle is gonna say, that's fine, let's run, let's shoot even faster. All right, let's go to Buffalo, Kansas City, the other game in the NFL. This is the game I know we talked about this last week. You said everybody was on the Ravens. I was the only one on Buffalo. Thank goodness. This game is interesting because it seems like more people are on Buffalo in this one. What's your read with all the odds makers and all your sharp connections?
It's pretty split. I really like the Chiefs. Sorry, the Bill. I've done that twice now. I really like the Bills in a teaser. I just think getting it over 7. I think it's a one-score game. I think Buffalo's the better team on a neutral, but at Arrowhead, all things considered, I like Buffalo plus the. I mean, look, you can adjust the spread 6 points. No kidding, it's going to look enticing. But that's that's where I'm at. I think it's a coin flip game. That's the way I felt with the Baltimore game. I didn't want to play either side.
Do you have a read on the total at all?
No,
47 and a half. I mean, that's a pretty standard number.
right. Sending out Wemby over.
Listen to that, guys. You're getting an official VIP from Doug live on the show. So my read with Buffalo and Kansas City, and I would say I've been really good with NFL playoffs this season. So hopefully it continues this weekend. Buffalo, Kansas City. I like Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes over rushing yards. I think he's gonna remind people that he's also mobile and athletic, and I think he's gonna. We still haven't seen a Kansas City team, and maybe we never will see one this season, but we haven't seen an offensive standpoint where they're clicking on all cylinders. I thought we were going to see that last week against Houston, but they were still struggling to convert third downs. They had like 4 or 5 three and outs in really crucial parts of the game as well. This is a Kansas City team that maybe is more it's more like they're living off their reputation than actually like being a good offensive team. I think you have to be able to score the ball against a Josh Allen team who I think it's his time, it's his year. Right now, if you're looking at the betting splits, I know Doug's not super into the splits and things like that. It does show that Buffalo is a slight public underdog, which is that's rule number one for me for never betting. But there's exceptions to everything. I just like Buffalo. I like um, I like their mantra going to the season and how they've executed. We talked about last week how they were undefeated at home. They ended up being 10-0 at home, but their more impressive wins have been on the road, most notably Detroit. And they've already beaten this Kansas City team earlier this season. I like Buffalo. I think they're gonna win by more than a touchdown, to be honest. So I like Buffalo on the money line, and I also like Buffalo alternate spread.
Interesting. See, I don't think they've been sort of on cruise control or whatever. I think that was the case during the regular season. I just like they've been putting Kelsey in bubble wrap all year, and now they sort of gone to him now that he looks fresh. Mahomes at the end of the regular season won and covered 3 straight. So what?
I made a tweet last week
Sorry, I thought
during.
I closed my window or something. Sorry,
No, you're
I thought
fine.
the window closed. Um, like, look, they closed the regular season with 3 straight wins and covers. They did not cover. I mean, I guess they covered last week. Sorry, 9, depending on your closing number.
I pushed.
Yeah, I just don't think they're as ready, like ripe to lose as everyone thinks they are.
Hmm.
It's still Mahomes. It's still the Chiefs. It's Arrowhead. It's Andy Reid. They're less than a field goal. Looks kind of fishy to me. So, excuse me. I kind of like the fave. And if in a pick'em league, I would take the favorite here.
Hmm. I mean, that's good intel. Last week I made a comment on. I posted this on Twitter on X that Travis Kelsey is the greatest tight end of all time. I think Gronkowski at his peak is a better player, but everything that Kelsey has accomplished, because I think Super Bowls are going to end up being a wash. But he has the most receptions, he has the most touchdowns. Second to Jerry Rice. The fact that he continues to show up in every postseason game. I mean, if he's not the greatest tight end ever, he's the greatest playoff tight end ever, in my opinion.
That is not as Mark Andrews.
That's low. That's a low blow,
What a
man.
brutal beat.
That is.
So, um, the only prop I have in this game is Josh Allen over 9.5 attempts. So, in terms of all these like props or whatever, I don't have anything bangable like I did the Lamar prop last week. As of now, unless I get some good intel, it's sort of a flat for me.
Okay.
Like all my kind of leans and everything on this.
Yeah. Do we know if there's weather in any of these games, or is it just cold?
So I was checking for AJ Brown purposes. I I think it's like not going to be like the second half last week, but I think there's 30% chance of precipitation. I think there's cold temps, but nothing like we saw in the second half where the field's going to have to be cleared for the field goal kicker and stuff.
The other question I had for you, does it seem like even though he's back, Isaiah Pacheco, it feels like it's more of Kareem Hunt's team from a rushing perspective?
I mean, I don't know because I had heard a sharp guy break down why Ryan receiving yards, like he's the third down back, and they had a bunch of third and longs because the Houston defense is so good. But I mean, they threw to him like twice on like a check down and spiked it. I think both times it was Mahomes just makes plays elsewhere, and then sometimes Ryan had to stay in and block. In terms of I don't know.
I asked because both of their props are set at 8.5 rushing attempts, and it's the same odds. It's basically a pick 'em. Who do you think is going to get more rushing attempts? And I think it's Kareem Hunt.
Well, this is where it's the NFL so complicated, right? You have this high level, game planning and all this stuff. You just don't know where a coordinator is going to try to exploit a mismatch, and this is why Belichick was so hard over the years. You just have to take a leap of faith in a lot of ways. So, as player props, like we tend to think some of them are predictable, but not always.
Yeah.
So, I got no opinion on that one. I got a prop for you, but it's minus 230 juice.
What is it?
Head to head passing yards, Jaden Daniels over Jalen Hurts.
Oh, that's cash money. I was on Stafford over Hurts last week. It's the same thing. The
Right.
last 30 minutes of our show is basically me saying Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball right now. And even when he was 100% healthy, it wasn't like he was slinging the rock anyway. So yes, Jaden Daniels, what did you say is minus 230?
230 at DraftKings.
Oh yeah, that's a banger.
Yeah. I'm a little gun shy because it's funny you mentioned that you've hit six. So I'm having my second best month ever. So I'm at
Hmm.
69 units. And I mean, I give out like
Amazing.
half unit
Yeah.
plays and stuff. So the fact that I'm at 69 this month, and the only one higher was when it was Olympics and WNBA last summer. Um, I'm just and it's they're such subjective timelines and things like that. You can't just be like, oh, I'm running hot. It's sometimes things. So if I don't love a game this weekend, I'm going to hold off. Like I loved the Lamar Jackson prop a week ago. I loved certain teasers. Don't really have a strong feel like NBA card, especially because I do so much in game that just wait, it'll come to you.
Yeah.
Um, things will happen. Like I did, as much as I lost a big play on the uh, Celtics last night. I did play Kings fourth quarter, came back, covered 3.5, things like that. So not for 5 units, not 8, but those were big plays considering, like I said, a lot of these are half units, 1 unit, 1.5. So, I got to let it come to me. So nothing. I do like OKC in the wheel. I like Orlando first half in game. Avdia under, very small play. Um, yeah, I'm not quite there across the board yet in terms of like a banger.
Great. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. I guess just to recap some of our reads, if people are just jumping on right now. And also, if you wanted to check out our free trial for the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe it's either 3 or 4 days, I forgot. But free trial, check us out. You can click the link in the comments below. One is for Doug, one is for me. You can get both of us for free. That'd be great, right? You'll get a ton of sides and pre-game, pre-flops angles for me, and then if you want in-game betting and live betting from Doug, you can get the best of both worlds there. So definitely check us out. To recap, NBA tonight. There's a lot of interesting games just because we have a bunch of teams on second nights of a back to back. But we both look to fade the Blazers. We both look to fade the Mavericks and the Kings. I think Doug and I are on opposite sides when it comes to Celtics and Lakers. I think there's some value there with LA hangover for Boston, who just played Clippers. Bulls Warriors. I think that's another game where we're not in agreement with. I like the road team and the Bulls there. The Warriors are playing on a second night of a back to back. Am I missing anything else in NBA, Doug?
Yeah, and I don't want to talk anyone off it. Those were just some when you said we were opposite. Some of those were
Just
just leans. I
leans.
mean,
Yeah,
like
just
I'm just
leans.
not ready to pull the trigger. I think I'm looking at maybe a Bulls over or something like that.
Mm.
Wemby hit another three, by the way. We're at three. It's good job by you to push it on me. He looks a little tired though. I think this has been a like emotional thing. You know what made me think of him as the butterfly swimmer last year, Marchand, no, the breaststroker and everything. The guy, the French
Yeah,
swimmer. I mean,
yeah,
the Olympics in his home country, 18 years old, and
yeah,
the crowd going nuts. I mean, just it's crazy, right? Like the fact that you have this phenom who's Michael Phelps ish, the same Olympics at 18 that happens to be in his home country. So,
yeah,
and it's not a country that dominates the Olympics, so he's really the focal point, right?
yeah. He's the hometown hero, pretty much. Did you
Um,
want to go
I
ahead? You want
wish
to
I had
recap the
anything in college.
in college right now? I'm on Georgia Southern, so it's looking great right
Oh,
now. If I go 1-0, I might just be done for the day. If I go 1-0 with Georgia Southern and 1-0 with the Spurs +3, I might be done for the day before 3 o'clock. So that's kind of my dream outcome right now.
I haven't got my Cal Baptist update yet. I have a guy who's pretty connected there. I usually bang. I usually hit all my plays when I get a good one there. I had really good opinions yesterday. Of course, I didn't post anything, but I was on some big dogs. Although I did like San Diego State at night, and they won by one in overtime. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I know a sharp guy who's on Mahomes over passing yards, given the matchup and everything. But isn't Buffalo's weakness stopping the run?
If you had to choose one, I don't think their defense is good in general. Um,
Right.
but yeah, they're not good at stopping the run, which was surprising how they were able to dominate the early part of that game against Baltimore. Um, Baltimore went out to a 7-0 lead and then couldn't do anything for basically a quarter and a half. So like, um,
I mean, Lamar had that stupid pick early.
mm-hmm,
I mean,
couple
did you know
fumbles.
the fumble that Von Miller returned for a long return? The play before that, Mark Andrews dropped the ball. It was just a really bad game for him, not just the 2 point conversion at the end of the
I
game.
remember the drop now on the left side. Yeah, I remember it now. Mahomes over passing yards. That makes a lot of sense to me. However,
249 though.
if I was KC, if I was Andy Reid, I wouldn't want it to be a shootout type of game, right?
Who
I
knows? I
would
mean, you do
play,
have you do have Patrick Mahomes.
but I would play how KC has been playing all season long. Is like keep the scoring down, keep it close in the fourth quarter, and they've won. I think they've won like an absurd like 17 straight games within one possession, something like
One
that.
possession games, yeah.
It's insane. Like that's not supposed to happen in a parity league like the NFL. But they just continue to do it, and they're comfortable, right? So, um, yeah, game script wise, it wouldn't make sense to me. But if your sharp says over, I mean, I defer to him.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said about Mahomes is like the difference maker in one score games. I mean, that play falling down where he threw it,
Yeah.
I mean, just insane. Although, look, Josh Allen makes similar crazy plays. He had the one in the snow where he did the lateral and dive for the pylon. I got nothing in terms of. Do you have any futures? Are you sweating out that you're juggling, you're playing out of, or anything like that?
Yeah, I had a good question. So I don't do features, but I did have a few DMs asking about what they should do. I'd love to hear your thoughts. A lot of them have Chiefs futures, right? They have Chiefs like 12 to 1, maybe 8 to 1, just depending on when they got
12
it.
to 1.
Yeah,
Jeez.
like a while back. But their question I always get, should I hedge? And I'm like, well, do you like, from a mutually exclusive perspective, do you like Chiefs or Buffalo today or,
Right.
this week? Because I think the winner of that game is going to end up winning the whole thing. So that's my 2 cents is the winner of AFC is going to win the whole thing because I don't believe in Philly. Um, what are your thoughts? Like, should they be hedging? Is there another value play there?
It really, I agree with your comments. Like, in a vacuum, who do you like? Is this life changing money? I also think, you know, this is so. Let's say I bet like three teams to win it all. Different times of the year, whatever. Whatever. Let's say it totaled $100. Let's say the Chiefs were 50, Bengals were 25, and whatever. It's
Hmm.
risked 100, and then whatever the Chiefs ticket pays, if that's the only team that's still alive, right? Let's say if it was 50 at 5 to 1, you really have 100 to win at plus 250 because the most you can win is plus 250 or 250 because it's 50 at 5 to 1, and then you did risk 100 on Super Bowl futures. So you have plus 250 on the Chiefs. If you really want to like hedge, lock in money, you have to factor in the other money you lost. The
Yeah.
same type of bet with that only has one winner, right? If it was a different sort of market where like yes, no playoffs, then that's different because there's multiple winners. So that's something I keep just don't forget the math. I'm thinking of pulling the trigger on Kelsey 28 to 1 to win the Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, wow. So he's just gonna win the MVP and propose right there on national TV.
Well, I mean, if you look at Mahomes' stats and that it's a defensive thing, this team's bread and butter is defense, and if he has a huge day and is always open,
Yeah,
it's not the worst bet in the world. He's
like
40 to 1 at FanDuel.
120 with 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that might be enough. If
But
Mahomes,
but
if
if they
both,
win like 23-17 and the team has two touchdowns, let's say Pacheco has one and he has like 85 yards and one. And let's say the Eagles defense does a nice job on Mahomes well enough, then yeah, I could see. I mean, look, like you just said, he's the best tight end ever. So it passes the smell test.
and it passes the narrative test, and that's huge.
He's 40 to 1, and they're going to be favored if they win this game. Like I know the Eagles are the Super Bowl favorites, but that's just because they have a higher spread in the conference title game.
If you can parlay Super Bowl MVP, get engaged, yes, no, and retirement, yes, no. Oh my gosh, that's the retirement ticket right there.
So I bet Barkley 25 to 1 at the beginning of the playoffs when the Eagles were 12 to 1, I think.
Hmm.
And so I mean now he's like 4 to 1 or something. So I think if there was a year where Mahomes would not win the Super Bowl MVP, and let's say they don't face Washington, because in Washington they might have to get in a shootout, where it could be a 23-17 game. Now I know they had a shootout a couple years ago against Philly, but that was the horrible field in Glendale, Arizona, where like it was chopped, like the footing was just horrendous. So I think 40 to 1. I mean,
I like it. No, that's a great look, and I
for
agree
a
with
guy
you.
who's it's not the season long MVP, right? This
Yeah,
guy can have a monster game, 85
yeah,
yards. He almost had the game winning touchdown right at the end of regulation last year.
yep.
So that's a
Travis
bet
Kelsey is my
I
top.
recommend.
Yeah, is my top tight end in postseason history. So I can't talk you off of it. I am happy Georgia Southern is gonna cash, so that's 1-0.
Good.
Let's see if the Spurs can cover the 3. Final thoughts, final comments before we head out, Doug?
No, I mean, I wish I had some really good words of wisdom or some strong plays or anything like that. I guess my words of wisdom is don't force anything, you know? These tickets all cash the same, and we all like to get action on big games, but in my experience, even going into a game with a pizza and beer money, whatever play, you kind of skews your thought process with the in-game wagering. So
Mm,
I much prefer having no plays at all if I don't like something a lot.
yeah.
Just let it come to you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you everybody for jumping on. Definitely check us out every week at this time, 2 o'clock Eastern. With NFL ending, we'll be talking more, basketball, maybe some hockey, maybe some baseball. So thank you again, everybody, and have a good one. Talk soon.